Welcome after the break. We have like another very interesting discussion to start, which is going to be on nature connection work in psychiatry. And I would like to welcome Inês, Natasha, and Geeta for the discussion and like giving you first this space to introduce yourself. I see
Thank you.
Geeta smiling.
Thank you, Elisa. So I have the absolute pleasure to have with me Inês Macedo. Inês is a psychiatrist, founding member of Cosmic Care, which is an NGO that works to promote health and well-being through more human and evidence-based drug policies. Inês is passionate about the natural world and is exploring how time and nature can support mental health and help people feel more balanced and connected. And Inês is the accessibility expert for the mental health population for the Accessible Forest Project. So she has been working alongside me for these 2 years, both in the field with the patients and also in the development of the educational materials. Welcome, Inês. It's a pleasure to have you here. And also a great pleasure to have here Natasha Lythgoe. Natasha is a friend and a specialist and expert in wilderness guiding and the founder of the Art of Rewilding. Natasha's work blends practices that connect us to our ancient roots and our indigeneity to the earth with modern modalities. Her approach is fully embodied, it's trauma aware, and emphasizes integration. She is a generative coach, a Buddhist practice, and also working with Gendlin's profound somatic process of focusing. And I invited both Inês and Natasha because they are real experts in their field. They take their work very seriously and also with a very big heart. And in the most transparent and honest way, I woke up one morning, I work with both, and I said, this would be an incredible conversation. Inês to bring her questions about nature connection and mental health, Natasha to bring her expertise within the fields of nature connection with some experience also with mental health. And I'm just going to hand it over to you, Inês, to lead this conversation. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you both today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Geeta. Thank you for this invitation, and thank you for the presentation. And nice to see you, Natasha. It's a pleasure to be here with you. And hello, everyone who is listening to us. So as Geeta just introduced, I was invited by her to get into this adventure of this Accessible Forest project, which was, wow, an honor to me and a big field of learning. As I'm a Western psychiatrist, I knew almost nothing besides my personal experience, but about nature and about its benefits for mental health patients. And it was beautiful to feel and to watch the transformation in our group of people. So Natasha, I will just ask for your expertise because there were some situations or some themes that began here a little bit in my mind. So many of those people, as we know, they had difficulties, an accessibility obstacle getting into the forest, and many of them even leaving, and even the location of the hospital we work on was very close by the forest where we went for our walks. They have never been to the wilderness or to the green natural world, not only because of general accessibility issues like transportation, like financial questions, but also because of their particular specificities, right? And it was that I can discuss later, but it was very surprising to me to see that the forest and the green environment that is for us very like luxurious and beautiful and astonishing, it provoked like fear and apprehension in many of these people. And I would like to ask you if you have any experience on these kind of feelings and these kinds of experiences, and if you want to comment on this, because this experience might be common to everyone alive.
Yeah, I can say something to this. Well, I was born in London. There aren't so many forests in London. And yeah, so even on a personal level, getting used to being in the forest took some time. I think if you've never been in the forest, or even if you've never been in the ocean, for example, it's a whole new territory with so much information that maybe you haven't had connection with before. So it's not surprising to me, but also mythically, the forest, if we look at a lot of myths and folk tales, there's this sort of symbolism of kind of stepping into the unknown, where these sort of mythical journeys take place. So I think there's quite a lot in our psyche already around the enchanted forest. Yeah, I think I said to you the other day that some years back I did a small program called, I think it was called Befriending the Night, where I met with a group of women, and we met outside the forest but close to the forest. And then I just gave them some simple embodiment practices to help regulate their nervous systems. And then very slowly together, we walked to the forest in a line, actually, silently. And we didn't have any torches or flashlights, and there was no moon. I deliberately chosen to do it without a moon. So it was really dark. And the only way that you could really sense was through your feet in contact with the ground, and having really soft knees so you didn't fall over when you were on bobbly ground. And then when we were in the forest, everyone sat with a tree and meditated with a little candle, and then came together at the end to sing together in the pitch black in the forest. And so I think like there are ways in which we can kind of reclaim what would have been once. I can imagine that the women in my ancestral lines would have done this together. They would have been in the forest together, foraging and singing and resting. And so for me, it's been a real joy to sort of, for myself and with others, find ways in which we can experience the gifts that can be found from those kinds of experiences, but in a way that doesn't like throw us out, throw us out of ourselves, because we're so like, you know, so like there are ways of doing that gently. I was going to say slowly catchy monkey.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and that's very interesting because this slowly entrance is may rely on your senses, right? On the tactile capacity of your feet. You said that they walked with no shoes, right? Or in bare feet,
Yes, and
which
it's
is
very slow.
very slow and yeah, and probably not thinking too much and more
Yeah.
in a whole connection, embodied connection, right? That's one of the things that we in some kinds of psychiatric patients, it's very difficult to reconnect people to their bodies and to make them trust in their physical sensations, which is something that these natural environments also invite us a lot, right, to do.
Totally. Even just the sounds of the birds. For me, they invite me into an awareness of the sky and of space. And so I mean, Geeta will have heard me say loads, sort of connecting with your center and the earth, and then connecting with the sky. And I really think it's my experience that when we can connect with a sense of spaciousness or horizon, it's such a resource. It can be such a resource. So sometimes I talk about the way that predators use their eyes in quite a focused way, and then animals that are eaten have their eyes quite soft. And as humans, we have the capacity to focus and soften our eyes. And when we play with softening our eyes, it has such an impact on regulating our nervous system, because we're giving the signal that we're safe, that we can just like kind of rest. So there are these simple ways of playing with hearing, and playing with the way that our eyes are, and playing with the way that we're walking like a little fox slowly. They're kind of simple ways that can kind of invite us into amplifying the sensory sense of being in the world, and calming down the narrating mind, which
Thank you. Yes.
often has an idea which is different to what's happening now.
And I will always be calling us to think a little bit of our psychiatric chronic patients, which was the population, but many of them spend, well, I don't know, but 99% of their lives indoor, right? Inside white walls, where it is, that's why we have this kind of projects and this kind of initiatives, and that's why we bring awareness for the benefits of the outdoors. But are there any kind of I don't know, exercises or ways of exploring also these senses in this population, which is very how can I say, limited to these indoor places, right? Because many of these people do not have a job or do not have academic activities. They live in their houses. They might come to daycare as our patients in the project, which is always also a white walled room, right? Or if they go to be hospitalized, is also this kind of containers. So I guess that this awakening of the senses is even more challenging for people with this kind of experiences. I don't know if is there. So the benefits of the outdoor experience are even more significant or not. I don't know. I don't know if I have read about this, but well, that I was just thinking about this. Don't know if you have
I
any.
can say for myself, just from a human perspective, I find the difference between being indoors and outdoors remarkably different. You know, particularly if I'm in let's say, a non-urban space outdoors compared to being in an inside space. So right now I'm in a room which has a lot of white walls, and generally I find it quite well, you can feel for yourself, but I find that it sort of amplifies me, myself, and I, rather than a sense of participating in an aliveness in the world around me. And when I'm in let's say, a natural space outdoors, it's impossible not to really be participating, because the rain might be falling on you, or the wind will be blowing in your face, or the robin will be tweeting in your ear. And so there's that natural invitation kind of movement of aliveness occurring all of the time, which gets kind of shut out when we're in these spaces here.
Yeah. Yes. I did, and you are reminding me that many of our depressive patients or psychotic patients are even more focused on their own experience because of their pathology. And probably that's one of the reasons for the benefits for them to be so expressive, so significant, because this simple invitation of coming out their thoughts or their own pain experience is probably this invitation of relationship, of connectedness with anything around, right?
Yes.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Isolation can be so disorientating.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about, I have to talk from my own experience because I don't work with psychiatric patients, but I obviously work with people that have feelings, let's say.
Yes.
But being isolating, it can really render oneself like in a sense of overwhelm, in a sense of being identified with a singular experience, whereas in reality there are lots of experiences happening, but it's this sort of not being orientated in world, kind of collapsed. That's my sense of it. And so that relation, like tending to the relationship and the orientation and the conversation, whether the conversation is through the ears or through the touch of the skin, kind of brings a natural balancing of interior experience and exterior experience. And if you're in a context which is relatively non-triggering, I don't know if I can use that language, then I can, it's my experience that it all begins to filter through, sort of like, oh, here I am looking at the sunset with the horizon with a hot drink of cocoa. And it's sort of like, how can that not begin to the colors are changing, the birds are singing their dusk songs, how can that not bring me a little out of my own isolation? It's sort of inviting me into world.
Yeah, totally. Yes, yes, yes. And feeling supported by something not only by myself, right? Feeling the company of the
That's it.
world, the universe, right? Yeah.
Yeah. The company, I love it. Feeling the company of the world. Yeah.
And yeah, supported, which is something that many of these dear people do not feel, right? It's like their own experiences are unexplainable, are not shareable, and so the support of others is difficult to feel, even if materially there is this or that, these people coming my home to help me doing dishes, but this non-verbal or non-mechanical kind of support is something truly valuable, and that probably this nature connectedness might bring. Interesting, beautiful. Yeah, in medicine and psychiatry, we read and we know a lot about the cortisol levels getting down with the outdoors experiences, or the attention capacity being like stimulated, but this much more simple, or the experience, the phenomenology of the outdoors experience is super interesting and enlightening, for at least for those who pay attention, right? It's beautiful. Thank you, Natasha. Yeah, for inviting me to think also about this.
But someone said to me last week, they said, oh, feel the support of the ground under your feet. And then they said, she's been supporting you all of your life every day. And I never heard anyone say that in relationship to that invitation before. And when he said it, I just thought, oh, you're so right. Like that kind of sense of ground has been there every day, all of my life. And so even just explicitly naming, like the vegetables grow from the earth and they nourish me when I eat them, and you know, like that sense of sensing how we are being like literally supported by the elements, like literally. That's been a real, I mean, I don't know if I should say that on a recording, but my experience of being a daughter has not been without complication. And so actually about 10 years or so, I spent a month doing some nature-based work in a particular location. And the main thing I connected was the experience of being really sort of, mothered might be too strong a word, but really nourished and held by the earth. And it was such a sort of, had a maternal kind of, I sensed, oh, this is what it's like to be mothered in this way. And it was so moving to my system to experience that.
Yeah. Yes. Beautiful. Yeah. You know that one of the other situations that I've noticed in this project, what we brought the patients to the forest with colleagues, with psychologists, with the professionals who work with them daily, and the experiences of the therapists were also very interesting and to analyze or to whatever. And they were constantly asking Geeta what should they do, or how should they be there, and like in this mood of doing something, or not mothering the patients, because there's no relationship of this kind of hierarchy or something, but like if they had to do something to support the patients or to help them get the benefits from the environment we were at. And now I just that came into my mind when you thought about this mothering and this supportive role of the natural world, and Geeta, well, shared her experience and invited the therapists to be part of the group, right? And I would like to listen to your comments on this, like need to do something even.
Yes. I mean, I love
It's
that you took the therapists and the patients together. It sounds really complete to me to have both. Yay to that. And also it's interesting because sometimes people can go out into, let's say, nature, but they cannot really be aware of the place in which they are, because they're just talking to themselves in their own head, as we do, even if we're not speaking, or thinking about what they're going to do tomorrow. And they can be quite sort of disconnected from the place in which they are. And so sometimes it can be really helpful to sort of, I'm sure Geeta's done that, to sort of make invitations, simple invitations to help people transition into being in relationship to the neighbours. And like the neighbours might be the trees or the hedgehogs, you know, or the rabbit holes. There can be there. It's really, I mean, even when I'm guiding quests, do a lot of preparation work with people to help them transition into what's it like to be in nature in a way which is relational. And like often I think we think that I love this idea that we're in a great participation. I have this concept, we're in this great participation. Buddhists might call it interconnection. Some people might call it animism. But like there's this idea that the world is somehow dead. I've been brought up with this idea that the world is somehow dead. And yet I know that it can't be true, So are there things that I can do to recover a sense of that out there being alive? And not only am I witnessing it, it's somehow witnessing me, and we're with each other. And that's so, in my personal practice, it's been so moving to me to sense that I'm with something, to really make it personal, like the wind is touching me, it's touching me, and I'm feeling it, and I notice it, and it's noticing me, not in some kind of weird human-centric way, but just in a way of sensing that something else has life in its beingness, and I'm not the only one, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and even just the simple act of, instead of saying that's a really beautiful tree, and just saying you are a really beautiful tree. Just the act of changing our language from talking about to talking to invites the sense of its aliveness. You know, there are simple ways. I mean, I don't know how that works with psychiatry.
Oh, absolutely. No. Yeah. Yeah.
But there are
The same.
simple ways. Yeah.
Yes. That's and particularly for us, for therapists, it's like the transition, also the transformation, or at least the mental transition of concepts, because nature is not an instrument that will help us do something, right? It's, we are also in relationship, and that's the relationship that brings everything, right?
Yes.
Not, yeah. And those
Yeah.
kind of invitations are like, whoa.
Exactly. So like I've been conditioned to relate to nature quite from a utilitarian point of view, you could say. And then what happens if I don't see it from that perspective, but I come from an appreciative mode? So really, it's not transactional. I want that tree's great because I can turn it into firewood, but more like existing on its own terms and appreciating something on its own terms without turning it into something for me. It's quite sort of, it's from this sort of quite sort of ego, I don't know, selfish way to this eco kind of view, which,
Yeah,
yeah.
extractive, right?
Yes, very extractive. And so even just going out and appreciating the beings, people might think, oh, you're crazy. But actually, I really believe that beings really love it. Human beings really love it when I appreciate them. So why wouldn't the moon appreciate it, or the plant appreciate it, or my cat appreciate it? Why is there this hierarchy of life that we somehow collude in? And that's not very alive. And I'm the most alive, and Geeta's less alive than me, and my mother's less alive than Geeta. It's just such a weird concept, this hierarchy.
Yes, true. Yes. Yes. Let me just ask you something else before we open the discussion to the big group. Before going into the forest, or if there is a before and after, because we can bring the natural environments to our own spaces, right? But one of the specificities, or some of the specificities of the population I work with, is the lack of motivation, the lack of energy, the lack of drive, right, to do anything, but to also to invest in this connection and this kind of experiences. And it's hard to deal, or to challenge those difficulties, right? In the project we had a very structured program, right? This day we will go, the buses will come to pick us up, and and Geeta is here and she will guide. But out of this kind of projects is the spontaneous move is very hard for people who are a bit constrained by their own experiences. Do you have any comments on these or any ideas or
Yeah.
to bring us?
Well, that's a bigger conversation, I think. You know, like to have these, you have these sort of, well, it's sort of experience set up for you versus everyday life, which speaks to something about how do I land this back into my everyday life, and things that for me are helpful and with my students are repetition. So if you have a practice that you repeat, anything that we repeat, whether it's learning to play the piano over a period, there'll be a deepening relationship with. So having practices that can be repeated, it kind of keeps the bond between the practice alive through the repetition, and the deepening sense of what's possible there will flourish through the contact over a period of time. And really, like that's like I would say like that is one of the ways to land things back home. Also having a community of people who share what it is that you're interested in, with whom you can connect up with, is a really good way of keeping something alive back home. Sort of meeting regularly and saying, oh, did you go out and look at the moon? Did you see there was shooting star parade? There's one coming up. Let's go and take blankets and lie on the floor and look at it. Like that, I think community is and repetition of simple practices. Those two together work really well, because you can bring it back and share. And that whole being witnessed by each other is so important. It's not like I'm just this mad witch loving nature feral person in a world where no one understands me. Not that I define myself like that, but it's more like, oh, we're in this together. We're exploring this together. What's it like for you? What's it like for me? There's something about that that's it's very humanizing.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it makes sense. So Geeta, we have to implement this. So every week, everywhere, right?
Most definitely, yes.
And you can use the natural world. I mean, Geeta will know about this. Like even just the full moon and the new moon, or the shooting star days that come, or the equinox, which is just coming up. You know, there are sort of particular days in the natural cycle that can be marked and you know, and explored. And the relationship with those points can be explored collectively.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes, because we think many times of the space, but not, well, at least myself, on the time, this dynamic, the cycles of the, yes, the space that we are. That's particularly interesting for people who cannot move much or that cannot access a certain kind of natural environment. So these cycles of the earth, of the universe, are accessible for everyone, even in
Yes.
a psychiatric ward. Yeah.
Yes. And they can
Yeah.
be marked, you know, in beautiful, honoring ways. We can mark the transition from more light to less light.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of people are like, oh my God, it's winter. But if we mark that and sort of Geeta and I ran a retreat where we were inviting, well, what are the gifts of the winter? what are the gifts of that kind of invitation to introversion? You know, we were exploring that in community, and so they can be really explored imaginatively and also ritually, just simple things like yeah, I'm not going to give you a simple thing, but you can explore things.
Yes.
I think we have a comment in the chat from Emma. It really is powerful in its simplicity, repetition, and community. Thank you for that, Natasha.
Pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, for your thank you, Natasha. And also the simplicity is, well, everywhere here in this
Yes.
because that's what I also noticed, like how something so simple can be forgotten is like, oh my God. And
Yeah.
we have to discover, to relearn something that's, well, it's very difficult to deal with simplicity nowadays and this
Yeah.
and
And to sort of undervalue it.
yeah.
So interesting. And you're right, it's this constant act of remembering. It's so easy to forget. But also, it's quite hard to sort of sell community. Anyway, I'm just sort of saying, just simple repetition of practice and community. People want these days information and certificates, and they want something for, you know, for their money. But actually, like this simple kind of remembering and doing and sharing and witnessing and community, like that's where the juice is. It's totally where the juice is. And it doesn't have to be things don't have to be complicated in order to be meaningful and have depth. This is such an illusion. I can't stand it. You know, when experts come and they use all this ridiculous language that's really hard to understand and they make things overly complicated. I'm like, go out, lie on the floor and look at the stars. Like, it doesn't have to be complicated, people. Simplicity has beauty and offers us much. I mean, there's so much overwhelm and information, and like to pause and hold hands metaphorically with each other and to take a break. Like, these are really, they mean a lot. All of this kind of focus, busyness, it's just so overrated. But I'm busy, so therefore I'm important. It's nonsense. Why should busy make you important? It's just ridiculous. It just makes you busy.
There's another comment in the chat. This is such a rich conversation. I hope to listen to these sessions on the recordings again. Thank you to all. From Elizabeth.
Mm. Yeah.
I wonder if you are if you want to open for questions from the audience. If anyone in the audience has any questions that you'd like to ask Inês or Natasha, you're very welcome.
We're all ears. Come on. Yeah.
If you want to bring your voice in, you can unmute yourself or just tap it in the chat.
Yeah, look, Dagmar.
Dagna has raised her hand. So Dagna,
Yes,
yeah.
indeed, I'm here. Thank you so much for such incredible sharing stories. And we talk a lot about the people and the nature, but what I noticed in that work, that there is a wall of institution between. And I'm just wondering, metaphorically, of course, how to go over this wall of institution to merge nature of human with nature of nature. Any comments from your side?
Inês, do you want to answer that and then I will? Or do you
Yeah,
want
well,
me to either?
Dagna, thank you for your question, which is really present in my for me, which was very present in this project. It's a big wall and a thick wall to to cross, right? And this bridge we can try to make is like, at least from my experience, there is very skepticism from these psychiatric institutions with something that's new, it's not very rigid, and it's very simple, right? Simplicity and not complexity of the processes that are not proven yet by hundreds of papers, right? Scientific papers. So I can only share my experience, which was is to try to speak both of the languages, like to make the bridge and to bring what, even if it's not much, but the scientific evidence that we already have for this kind of practices and experiences. And at first I was really impressed with the huge amount of science that is being made in the last 10 years with this, even for very specific populations of psychiatric patients. So presenting a bit of this work and having true conversations and having this international consortium, this like very strong institution, like European institution behind, even if it's speaking this kind of language, it's needed to get into common understanding of what we are going to put into practice. And it worked, and it was very rewarding to see the people from the institution where I belong to understand and to acknowledge in their own bodies and also in their own patients the benefits from and very interested. The therapists that we worked with are always like sending emails, how can I learn this, please, Geeta, tell me how should I what course should I do to be a nature therapist or to be a nature guide. So it's a little bit like try to put those so different languages into contact, into conversation, and well, that's what we did, and I think it's working slowly, like the fox. This kind of practices might be getting into the institutions.
I mean, I haven't got much to add to that. I thought that was really helpful. And I haven't got a lot of experience personally working in institutions. But I agree that there's something about finding ways to give the individuals the experience in which they can witness in themselves and the people they're working with the results. And then, I mean, it takes time, but drop by drop, a bucket will fill with water.
Definitely, Natasha.
Thank you.
We proposed to bring the chief of, not chief, I don't know what the name, but the highest director of the institution to the nature. He didn't find time, but well, at least other people came, and it was game changer, definitely.
So we have 1 minute before we break for the next session, but there is a question or a curiosity to know how the guests or patients responded to nature in more detail, what they shared about the experience. Inês, do you want to, in a very concise way?
In a minute. Yeah, well, the instruments we used, because we have to put this into, again, the language that the institution understands, were very not very extensive, but so from that perspective, like this kind of structure scientific reading, I don't have much to present, but they all reported an immense sense of relaxation and physical ease, like comfort. This, like the muscles were working better, like relaxed, and this calmness and tranquility of the mind were the most frequently reported experiences. I guess that the simple act of going out and to this, as Natasha said, this the possibility of having this like view with a distance, in a distance, was very like lightning. People felt like they were walking better. I think that this physical sensation was the most frequently reported, and we also noticed that they came into the hospital with an ease. This was the most common experience.
Thank you, Inês. Thank you, Natasha, for this first conversation. I wish we could stay on longer, but I'm going to hand it over to Eliza, the conference facilitator, for our next
Thank
steps.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Geeta. Thank you, Inês. Thank you, Natasha. And then, like, yeah, I really see that, yeah, maybe people who want to stay longer, they may stay longer, because what is going to happen now, we are going to open like a lunch break. So we are coming back only at 2 Central European summertime, but Dagna was putting attention. So I guess, like, those of you who still have questions, I would like to engage in the meaningful conversation. They can either stay in the plenary, or maybe they can also, like Daniel can put you in the breakout rooms. Otherwise, I think, like, we can also follow this, like, beautiful, like, calling of Natasha, go outside. This is what I'm planning to do, because I'm here, like, in this front of the screen from 9 o'clock. So, like, apart from lunch, I will grab my lunch, but I will also go outside to look at the trees, and I'll be coming back here at 2. So those of you who feel like staying and engaging in meaningful conversation, like using the screen, do it. Those of you who feel like engaging in the conversation with the non-human beings, and it was held here, so like trees, plants, sky, clouds, like feel welcome, and then we see each other back at 2. See you.
Thank you very much, Elisa.
See ya.
Bye-bye. Thank you. See you.
So,
Thank you, Eliza.